Shawn has, in your, I don't know, I guess in your structure or whatever, I guess you, for lack of a better term, you've kind of been using when you've been meeting with these guys. What do you think the biggest thing they react to is just questions, just a really trying to involve yourself and pull things out of their lives and their situation as much as possible? I mean, what do you feel like they react to the most in your all's time together?
Well, one of the first things that we went through spiritual leadership last semester, the Oswald Sanders book, and one of the nights, if not the first night, the second night, we were talking, and after we got through with our study, the conversation turned to relationships, and it was we talked for a little bit, and then Natalie actually came home from being out with a girlfriend, and she pulled up a chair and she sat down, and she started talking to me and the four guys, and they were just asking her questions about when a girl says this, what do they mean, and we talked about relationships, and it was probably an hour-long conversation, really just the six of us sitting around in a circle, and that's when I realized that this is really different than I thought it was going to be. This is really us just hanging out with them, telling them everything that we know, and telling them everything that we did that we wish we would have done differently. It's not about being able to quote chapter 14 from
right.
Sanders' book or anything else. That was a really meaningful night for me because it clicked, because they're interested in knowing what does a Christian relationship look like? What does a Christian husband and wife relationship
right.
look like?
Right. One thing you shared with me I thought was really interesting, because I even used it with the men that I meet with in my fire team that same week. But you shared with me that on one of the times all of you got together was that you asked the question, what do you worry about? And I think you shared with me you were very surprised at how they opened up and some of the things they said. Because as I processed that, I thought, you know what? We think young men that age don't really have anything to worry about. It's us that have things to worry about. But yet again, in my own life, I don't know if I've really thought a lot about that myself. What do I worry about? So I thought that was an interesting question. I don't know if there's any more you could add to that when you all spent some time with that night.
Well, it gave me a lot of, it gave me direction on how to pursue those guys individually. Because, one worried about his mother having cancer, one worried about some things he saw his parents go through, how that might adversely affect him as he got older, that I could relate a lot to, because it had to do with some financial difficulties, and he was concerned that his drive that he has to be successful and to be financially independent could be related to that, and it gave me a great connection point, because I see some of those things in my own life.
Right. Kind of changing gears here a little bit and not trying to get too personal, but I think a lot of guys think maybe because of their background, maybe the way they grew up, possibly not having a real good relationship with their own dad, having some situations like that they think, well, they don't really have a lot to offer to a young man. But I know from some of the things you've shared with me that you were kind of one of those guys. You didn't necessarily have that growing up yourself, and didn't really have anybody when you were in your 20s invested in you. But yet, you felt the need and even felt equipped enough to do what you're doing. What can you give me a little?
Yeah, I grew up in a divorced home. My parents divorced when I was 3, and grew up with a single mom, and never really had. My biological father wasn't a father figure, but from any standpoint, and in my early 20s, didn't have anybody that was interested in me, and I'm not sure at that point I was really a beacon for somebody to try to be interested in either. But fortunately, as I grew and I got involved in church, there was a few men that I sought out relationships with, and And as I saw relationships out with them and started to learn from them, I thought, I need to be doing this myself. And that was really the thing that clicked was, it's easy, in my opinion, it's easy to reach up and try to ask for help. But to go down and help the generation below you is where it's really needed. And so that's why I decided to do it.